Welcome to the RO Sports Show.
Good evening and welcome to the RO Sports Show, as always brought to you by First Health Orthopedics. I am your host, Matt Harrelson. To my right, as always, Jeremy McKenzie. On the other end, Russell Parker. So, what's this guy's name? LeBron James.
Man,
James.
King James.
July 4th fireworks. This is just popping off right
Yes,
now.
and I don't know much about LeBron, but I feel like we're probably going to talk about him a little bit tonight. Of course, I want to also mention, hope everyone out there had a wonderful and safe Independence Day. I also want to mention, because of the holiday, we're actually taping this show. So you're seeing it on Thursday night. We actually taped it a couple of days ago. And I just want to tell people that, just in case we were worried we might miss LeBron getting signed. Of course, that happened Sunday night. But just in case Kawhi or somebody else moves, we want to let people know that we didn't drop the ball. We just we want to take a vacation as well. So, but let's get right into NBA. So, of course, we got to start with LeBron signing with the Lakers. 4 years, $153.3 million. Also want to mention that if he'd have stayed with Cleveland, he actually could have made another $50 million. He would have made 200-something million.
200.
Obviously, money's not an issue with LeBron,
Yeah.
but as we sit right now, James on this team. You've got Brandon Ingram. You've got Lonzo Ball. You've got Kyle Kuzma.
And Rondo just signed.
And Rajon Rondo. So as the Lakers currently sit right now, I'm start with you, Jeremy. Are the Lakers instantly now a title contender?
Not at this moment. I can see them being a serious playoff contender. Can potentially reach to the Western Finals.
All right, what do you think, Russell?
I think LeBron didn't just make this decision, probably not just to win championship, but also he's got family down there.
Right.
So that's the reason why he made his move. But I can still see them being a potential threat in the West this time around.
I think there's no doubt that they now become a playoff contender. I don't think there's any doubt about that. As I was mentioning on Good Morning Sandhills a couple of days ago, as they sit right now, I think the Lakers still sit behind Golden State and Houston. So I think as of right now, it's why I kept saying, even though I was wrong, that he needed to go to Philly or stay with Cleveland to stay in the East, because that gives you a direct path to the finals. Now, in my opinion, and I want to get your guys, they're third in the pecking order. What do you think? You agree?
I think so, because you really now you have to end up fighting your way in order to get back to the NBA Finals, because you got to go through Houston and Golden State, and there may be other teams like Portland and San Antonio as well could be a threat.
Yeah. And we're gonna talk about Golden State obviously here in just a minute, but I want to continue talking about LeBron. So, I said that we told people that we taped this because just in case Kawhi moves, if you're the San Antonio Spurs, and obviously you're a fan of them, do you make this trade and make the Lakers, who's in your conference, that much better?
I think it is going to be a scenario where if I was R.C. Buford, the general manager, I would talk with Greg Pop and talk with Kawhi together at a meeting and discuss his future, what he wants to do. I see a scenario where he can play the season and get traded before the trade deadline, where you can get draft picks and players in return. Like you said earlier, if he plays the whole season as a San Antonio Spurs, he come a restricted free agent after 2019, you're not getting nothing out of the deal. So basically, you're losing a lost cause.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so like you just said, this would be Kawhi's, if he plays it, his last year on that Spurs contract. I'm going to ask you the same thing, Russell. Would you basically help bolster a team that you potentially may have to go through in the playoffs?
Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah, it's like I can't think of another scenario, but basically you'd be helping out your competition. And I know Kawhi's kind of pushed his way into this conversation where he's like, look, I don't want to be here anymore. I'd like to go to L.A. But the Spurs don't have to do that. They could trade him somewhere else, and of course Kawhi still could leave after that this year and go to L.A. But as of right now, I just think that LeBron James is going to need another superstar on this team, because all of the other guys on the Lakers are really, really young, which is good for the future. But again, LeBron, he's 35, 36 years
33.
old? Oh, 33. I made him older than he was.
But maybe he doesn't want it to be easy, like is in the East. Maybe he wants a little more of a competition level, and maybe he wants to be playing with the best against the best. So
yeah, and that's true, and he's going to get it, because I could even see a scenario where, look, regular season wins aren't that important for Golden State. They kind of quote unquote put it in cruise control through the regular season. Of course, they obviously turn it on when it comes playoff times. I could see a scenario where the Lakers might actually finish with a better record than Golden State. But again, once you get into the playoffs, I kind of feel like it's going to be like it was in Cleveland, where it's LeBron and a bunch of young guys, and this time he's in the West, and he's not going to be able to cruise into the finals like he has in Cleveland and then in Miami. So now that LeBron's left the East, it's kind of left a void there. Let me ask you this. Who now is the team to beat in the East?
I say Boston Celtics.
What do you think?
Maybe Philadelphia.
Yeah, I think it's going to come down to one of those two teams. Maybe Toronto. You could throw Toronto in there as well.
Or Milwaukee can be a dark horse.
Or Milwaukee, which brings me to my next question. Who now is the best player in the East? And I say that because I'm saying it's the Greek Freak from Milwaukee, Giannis Antetokounmpo. I think I've said it before. I'll say it again. I think this guy's going to end up being the next LeBron James. I'm not, comparing him, straight up, but I think he will eventually become the guy that'll win multiple MVPs. But what do you think? Who's the best in the East now?
I say right now, by LeBron James is leaving the Eastern Conference and going to the Western. Now is Kyrie Irving's time to be where he can be the man in the East, where you don't have to be under LeBron's shadow.
Exactly. By the way, Kyrie's a free agent after next year.
Yes.
Have to wait and see what happens to that. But what do you think, Russell?
Well, I'm going to pick a guy who just came in to it after the draft, who eventually will become the best. Probably not this year, but eventually. Colin Sexton over in Cleveland. Going to take over Cleveland Cavaliers. Going to lead them on to some big games.
Well, we
big
see
wins.
where your allegiances lie. You had to get a Bama boy in there, didn't you?
Probably stick a Alabama sponsor sticker on this jacket.
Yeah, they should be paying you, man, as much as you name drop them. Now, getting back to LeBron moving. Obviously, there's big shoes to fill in LA. I'm assuming that LeBron's probably going to want a statue out there eventually. What's LeBron's legacy after this is all said and done?
I think it's going to be a scenario. Now he's in LA. You creating a legacy where you come with the Kobe's, the Wilt Chamberlains, the Kareems, the Magic, the James Worthies,
And on and on and on.
and the Shaqs.
Yeah.
So I think this is going to be a new scenario where he just going to put up stats up, and pretty much he might bring a championship to the Staples Center. Tennis going to increase, whatever the case may be. But I think it's going to be a scenario where this is going to be, hey, you ain't one of the big market teams. This is where it's your time where you could come in and be the face of the franchise.
And you mentioned, maybe he wants to do it the hard way. Don't you think this puts added pressure as having to fill those shoes and leave a resounding legacy in LA?
I don't know about pressure, because I think LeBron's been in just about every situation possible at this point, where he probably doesn't feel it as much. He's probably still got it there, but not like overwhelming him. But I don't think he wants anybody to say, he won this championship, but it was because of this, this, and this, not because he was good and he was great. I think that's where he wants to not have that being tarnished on his titles.
Yeah. I got another question for you. Looking back at the East, now I've heard reports that Kevin Love is potentially available now. Are the Cavs breaking it down? I mean, where do they go from here? Are they starting over?
I think it's going to be a rebuilding year for Cleveland, because you got to look at some contracts like Kyle Korver, J.R. Smith, Kevin Love, and I see Tristan Thompson staying, and pretty much it's going to be a young team. Tyronn Lue, I think he's done a great job with these guys, but I think it's going to be a year where it's going to be they'll barely make the playoffs, probably 7 or 8 seed. But this is going to be where they just going to have to. It's going to be a young core team.
So you think they'll still make the playoffs?
Yes.
Okay. What do you think?
Well, and not to mention that LeBron leaving, they got more cash. It means they can spend a little more to get their players all around, not just one great one. They can have a bunch of good ones that can build together and potentially make a really strong team in the playoffs.
Yeah. Look, I think that obviously with LeBron leaving, it leaves a giant hole to fill. I think we're going to see them unload Kevin Love. And, for instance, we talked about it last week when LeBron left and went to Miami. Well, Cleveland had just picked up Kyrie Irving, number 1 pick, but they dropped like 30 wins or something like that.
Yeah, 20.
I see that same thing happening where they don't even make the playoffs next year. They might win 30 games, something like that. I mean, that could happen, though, obviously, right?
It can.
Yeah.
Because we already seen that happening when he left for Miami.
Yeah. And, again, I can see that same thing happening. Now, some other housekeeping issues, if you will, around the NBA, and you've got a long list here, but let me hit some of the big guys here. Paul George is going to stay with OKC, signs a 4-year, $137 million contract. First of all, everybody was saying PG-13, he's heading to LA. Does this surprise you that he's staying in OKC?
This was to me was a very shocking deal because I was figuring the rumors was speculating that he wanted to go home to Los Angeles, be with the Lakers and paired with LeBron, who pretty much can solidify his career where you could have a 1-2 punch and what not have you. Now he wants to stay in OKC, still with Russell Westbrook and Carmelo.
And see, I think we may have touched on that last week. Like, you know, there's a strong possibility he may want to stay with Russell instead of going to LA. Did this surprise you at all?
It did to me, considering all the talk about it. You know, they could have been meeting with each other, having text conversations with each other, and it could potentially made a big team. But at the end of the day, it's all speculation on not just the fans, but for even us. So, you know, it wasn't really anything said by any of those players.
And see, you know, we've talked about this before about how these guys, you know, they all talk to one another. The teams can't really talk to them, I think, because there's like a tampering issue. Yeah. But I see, the thing that surprised me was I figured Paul George and LeBron had been in conversations trying to figure out what each one was going to do. That's why it really surprised me to see Paul George stay, not because it was a bad decision. It was just I just keep thinking LeBron didn't go to LA, you know, without someone else coming with him, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe Paul George decided not to go because, you know, when you go wherever LeBron is, it's all going to be about him. You maybe Paul wants to have his own legacy that doesn't have nothing to do with him. Where again, kind of going back to what I said about LeBron wanting to go somewhere more competitive. Paul wants to do somewhere. Hey, I want this because I'm good, not because LeBron helped me out.
Yeah. Chris Paul also decided to stay in Houston. This one makes sense, but he signed a 4-year, $160 million deal. By the way, these guys are getting paid astronomical numbers.
Yeah, he's worth the money. Chris Paul, you know, he resurrected his career in Houston this year, and pretty much he stepped it big in the playoffs. But I truly say if he would never got hurt in Game 6, even eventually went to Game 7, I truly believe Houston would have beat Golden State.
I agree, which is why I picked Houston to make it to the finals. Of course, we know now that didn't happen. But I don't want to say what if, but I agree with you. If Chris Paul would have been healthy, I think we would have seen a different scenario. And then finally, like I mentioned, we're going to talk about Golden State because they rule the roost in the NBA, and it sounds like they're going to continue to do so because Kevin Durant decided to stay in California. He signed a 2-year, $61.5 million deal. You know, I know there was, again, some speculation, some rumors that KD might decide to go. He signed this the second year as a player option, so he actually could opt out after, you know, this time next year and maybe move again. But KD re-signing, did that surprise you at all?
No, it did not surprise me because, hey, you won 2 championships back-to-back and 1 Finals MVPs. You the man in Golden State. Why not? Well, now, if it's like the old Golden Rule, if it ain't broken, don't fix it.
Exactly. You agree?
I mean, that's like asking why did Nick Saban stay with Alabama? He's going to have successful.
You with the Alabama?
No, but it is a good comparison.
Yeah. I mean, you know, you want to stay where you're successful at. I mean, maybe you want to go out there and take a chance, but for the most part, people want to play it safe.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why Paul George decided to stay. And then finally, got to mention this: DeMarcus Cousins signed a 1-year, what was it, $5 million, something like that. You got on the list there.
It's a DeMarcus Cousins signed a 1-year, $3.5 million contract.
So a small contract, but it's a 1-year deal. So obviously he's going there to win a ring, right?
Yes, and I think this is a scenario where it's a prove it deal. Can you stay healthy the whole year? Because like I said in the beginning when this playoff started. I said a dark horse team. The Pelicans was a dark horse because you got to look at Anthony Davis and DeMarcus Cousins, the Twin Towers, and you had Rondo pushing the tempo on the offensive side of the ball. It's like if DeMarcus Cousins would never gotten hurt, I could see a scenario where the Pelicans could have went deeper in the playoffs.
And this is absolutely a prove it deal because he ruptured his Achilles, which is not an easy thing to come back from. And I read today or yesterday that he's expected to, if everything goes to plan, be back in December or January. Yeah. Let me ask you this, Russell. DeMarcus Cousins gives them 5 All-Stars that can be on the court at any given time. Is Golden State just unstoppable? Should they even play the season?
Yeah, I think they might well just kick it back a little bit down there in Cali and then wait for the playoffs.
Yeah.
And let the reserves take over.
I mean, really, you think about it. I mean, you've got DeMarcus Cousins joining. Now, again, he won't be able to join until, later in the winter. But again, once he's there and healthy, that adds another 20 and 10 to a team that already kicks everybody's butt.
That's just let the Chillers play the first couple games of the season.
I mean, they probably could, which again, makes me wonder why LeBron chose LA. I get the family thing, I get all that, but as far as winning championships, I think he's put himself in kind of a roadblock. Because look, KD signed for 2 more years. I don't see him opting out. Do you?
No.
So I mean,
but
again,
maybe around this time next year we'll be all wrong. Maybe he'll be.
we could
champion.
be, but I mean, they add Cousins, they keep Durant, Curry's still there.
Klay Thompson,
and Draymond,
Draymond Green. You got your 6-man Andre Iguodala. So
yeah, and then of course Chris Paul stayed in Houston, so Houston and James Harden, they're still going to be formidable.
And Russell Westbrook and
I was about to say OKC is going to be a threat, so I'm thinking LeBron, you might have made a bad decision here.
Yeah,
but we'll have to wait and see.
We'll wait and see when the NBA season starts. He might prove everybody wrong.
Absolutely. Nonetheless, a lot of guys getting paid a lot of money. I think I think we all can agree on that. But that's going to do it for the NBA talk. Of course, if we happen to miss anything, if Kawhi gets moved or something, we'll, of course, update everybody on the RO Sports Show Facebook page and across all of our platforms. But as we sit now, I'm thinking it's going to be difficult for LeBron to win a championship, at least in the first couple years. Of course, he signed for 4. We'll see what happens. I'm not sure if there's a player option in there or not, but I would imagine there's not.
I think he has one in his 3rd year.
Yeah, because usually he's notorious for doing that in his last few contracts. But again, LeBron on his way to LA. Again, that's going to do it for this segment. When we come back, we're going to take a look at Georgia, the Bulldogs schedule, as we've been doing. We started with Oklahoma, moved to Clemson last week. This week we're going to be looking at Georgia. Take a look at their schedule, see if maybe they've got an undefeated season ahead of them. We'll wait and see. And then, of course, we've got a lot of NASCAR news as well with Russell. So all that and more when we come back from the RO Sports Show.
At Richmond Community College, we prepare you for a high-skill, high-paying career in a variety of fields. From business to education, engineering, utilities, healthcare, criminal justice, information technology, and human services. At Richmond Community College, we can save you thousands of dollars on tuition through our university transfer programs that provide a seamless transition to universities and colleges throughout North Carolina. At Richmond Community College, we are always developing new courses and programs in response to the communities we serve. We offer day, evening, and online courses, and you can now complete 5 curriculum programs entirely online. At Richmond Community College, we believe in helping you prepare for a better life. Richmond Community College. Local college, big impact.
Exit Realty Platinum in Rockingham has listed one of the most beautiful homes in Richmond County. Located in Rockingham on Ledbetter Lake, the home features 4 bedrooms with bamboo floors and a kitchen featuring stainless steel appliances and granite countertops, and a master bedroom that overlooks Ledbetter Lake, along with a spacious tile shower and the attached master bathroom. The open living space leads to the back deck with a perfect view of Ledbetter Lake, and the property features its own boat dock. Want to see this beautiful home? Call Nicole Hayden with Exit Realty Platinum, your source for homes in Richmond and Moore counties.
My name is Jim Leach, and we have been using the Tim Hayden Construction Company for the last several years.
My name is Dave Owens and my wife Beth. We had some damage here at our place in Knollwood Village.
January 2nd, our house flooded upstairs coming through to the first floor.
Tim has responded very quickly with his team of people.
Our repairs went extremely well.
Tim made a very difficult situation much easier for us.
And welcome back to the RO Sports Show. And as I mentioned before the break, we're going to take a look at the Georgia Bulldogs' upcoming 2018 schedule. We'll put that on the screen for everybody to peruse. But just like we did the last couple of weeks with Oklahoma and Clemson, I wanted you guys to take a look at the schedule. And first off, Jim, let me start with you. Anything on there that kind of sticks out as maybe a trap game or just anything significant?
I say what Georgia's probably going to finish the season 11-2 because the reason being, I look at 2 games that's probably going to be a knockout blowout. One of those games is going to be Auburn, which is always give Georgia a headache in most games, but both running games going to be pretty strong. Defense always been pretty strong. It's going to probably come down to a field goal to win the game. And another team that's probably going to be a knockout blowout, I say LSU.
Because they've got to go to Baton Rouge.
Yes.
Now, the Auburn game is in Athens, but anything stick out to you?
Georgia has a very easy schedule as far as because the SEC East is very weak.
It is.
Compared to the West. So Georgia really has a very easy ride to the championship game, the SEC championship game. So I can actually see that maybe Auburn giving them some trouble. Of course, it is in Athens, like you mentioned. Florida's a neutral site game. We always do that every year. That might be where they can mess up at. But really, other than that, I can't really see them having any issues unless they lose early to South Carolina, and that's down in Columbia. So that's going to be a tough game for them as well.
It could. I think. I don't mean to interrupt you, but I think the East. You're right. Has been the weaker of the two for quite a while now. South Carolina, I feel like, is a team that's on the up and up. Florida, I feel like should be better than they are.
Yeah.
But again, I mean, after that, who's left? Kentucky's not it. Vanderbilt's not it. Tennessee. I mean, you never know what you get with them. Ever since Philip Fulmer left. I agree. I think at LSU is going to be interesting because, like I mentioned, they got to go to Baton Rouge.
And that's a West team.
And Auburn, another West team. So, I mean, I think those are the two that could potentially give them trouble. Of course, they start the season with Austin. I think it's Austin P. Is how you pronounce that?
So.
Again, just like we looked at Clemson's last week, that's a throwaway game. You can already call that one. So basically, their first game is going to be at South Carolina. Who knows? South Carolina's got a really good young quarterback. I think his last name's Bentley, something like that. He's really good. Will he be able to carve up that Georgia defense? I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so because Kirby Smart has put a great football team together. He's done that within 2 years, I believe.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing. I mean, he made it to the playoff finals. Nearly won it if it wasn't for second and 26. But, Georgia and Kirby Smart, really good combination there.
I agree. And you've mentioned several times before, you see Georgia as being a national title winner
within the next 5 years.
Yeah. So, not playoff prediction, but record prediction. What do you think?
12-0. I know a lot of people might be surprised by that because I'm an Alabama fan, but if you listen to me on Live 5 last year, I was saying this already. They have a very strong team. Kirby Smart, learned from the best, and I'm sure he's got a few tricks up his sleeve still as well. So, easy schedule here. They could potentially even win the SEC championship. That's how far I'll go with that. I'm not sure about the playoff at the moment, but Georgia 12-0.
And you're going, what, did you say 10-2?
Yes.
All right. Well, I agree with you. When I looked at it, my gut reaction was they have the potential to go undefeated, and I'm going to stick with that. I'm going to say 12-0. You've got their quarterback last year was a freshman, Jacob Fromm. Now he's a sophomore. He's got a year under his belt. Now, I know you lost Nick Chubb and you lost Sony Michel, but still, you've got that Swift kid who was just a freshman last year who is fast as lightning. And again, like you said, Kirby, just in the couple of years he's been there, has built a big recruiting class, and I think it's going to pay off for him this year. Now, obviously, this is a stupid question, but making it back to the CFP?
If they go in the field, I think certainly. But if there's other teams in their conferences who is also going to field, they probably get kicked. They probably get booted down because of the fact that it's such an easy schedule. But if they go all the way on the field, and I'm going to say they beat Alabama in the SEC championship game,
Wow.
they're going to. That's where I'm putting them at right now. We'll talk about Alabama next week.
Yeah.
But,
Also, Scotland's, I think Scotland's own is a Georgia.
Yeah, Zamir White went to Georgia, although I don't know if he's going to be ready for the season because he had surgery back in December, January.
Yeah, he won't be ready. He's going to be redshirted and during his freshman year, but I think he will be doing contact drills and resuming football work in his sophomore year.
That's my only worry about Zamir. He's obviously very talented. He was the number 1 running back recruit coming out of high school, but they used him a lot at Scotland, and he sometimes has some issues with staying healthy. And I'll be interested to see whether he's able to continue staying healthy while he's at Georgia. But what do you think? Do they make it back to the college football playoff?
I believe they will because the only thing that's going to be a thorn in their side is Alabama.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can all agree on that. And I agree.
If they lose one game, it'll be very close. It depends on everybody else's ranking and their matchups and whatnot.
So you're saying it's a thin line between making it and not making it.
They've got to go undefeated.
Sometimes it is, and that's the difference between basketball and football when it comes to college. And like you said, next week we're going to take a look at Alabama. I'm sure you'll have plenty to talk about. Of course, it seems like for the last 10 years, Alabama's always the favorite, and I would imagine there's probably going to be the same scenario coming up for this season. So like I mentioned, next week we're going to take a look at the Crimson Tide and see how far Roll Tide gets. So, real quick, what do you think? Undefeated for Alabama?
We'll see.
Okay.
I'll
see that bench.
I want
Let's see if I
undefeated.
can get a teaser out of you.
I'm going to say Alabama undefeated.
I ain't even looked at the schedule. I'm just assuming they're going to go undefeated.
I mean, I know a few games where they might struggle a little bit,
Yeah.
but I could see them doing very, very well.
All right. Well, again, we'll touch on that next week. Now, let's leave the football stadium and head to the racetrack. So, Russell, take it away. Where were we this week?
We were down up in Joliet, Illinois, for a Chicagoland's race. They had their 400-mile race up there for Chicagoland Speedway. Very interesting track, by the way. It's a 1.5-mile track, but it's kind of the backstretch. Most backstretch on tracks are straight. This one has a little curve to it, so I've always found that was like one of the most interesting things about that racetrack. But anyways, we had fireworks just happened off yesterday, but there was some fireworks already started in Chicago between Kyle Larson and Kyle Busch because they had traded paint. Not really towards like the last lap of the race. Kyle Larson tried to do a slide job. Now, if you heard Dale Earnhardt Jr. calling that race,
I did.
It was hilarious because he was just yelling, slide job, slide job. But Kyle Larson could not complete that pass in the turn. So he made contact with Kyle Busch. And, of course, Kyle Busch, it was all open, fair game for them. Kyle Busch went back and retaliated, bumped him in the next turn. Kind of spun Kyle Larson, didn't entirely wreck him because Larson did manage to come back. Yeah. But he only finished second because Kyle Busch went and took the checker flag for the race.
So Kyle Busch won, and I got to mention, last week you touched on to finish out the season, the next 10 races. Gotta tell you, man, you're 0-1 right now.
0-1 right now, but I tell you what, I wouldn't trade that right now for anything because that was one of the best finishes this season. I wouldn't trade that for anything.
And you had picked what, Truex, I think, to win?
I picked Truex, yeah, because he had won it the last 2 times.
Right, and like you said, Kyle Busch won. I think you had a little bit of a rant on this. I know you were fired up when you sent me the video.
Yeah, I mean, after the race, now a lot of people do not like Kyle Busch, myself included.
Right.
But Kyle Busch put on a good show in that last bit, and along with Kyle Larson. Kyle Larson had no issues with Kyle Busch at the end of
he
this
gave me a thumbs up after.
Yeah. He said it was fun, actually.
Yeah.
But the fans, now they're going to be fans. They're going to hate. Haters going to hate. But Kyle Busch before he even got out of his car, you can already hear the stands booing him. Yeah. And quite frankly, I don't feel like that was fair because he was the one who's done wrong first. Right. So they should at least been. It shouldn't have been as loud as it was, in my opinion. But when he got out, he actually made some gestures to the crowd, like some crybaby type of stuff. and then people were using that as the excuse to boo him at this point. But I mean, he's always been that kind of a character. But booing him for a finish where it was not his fault, I think that was just wrong. I think you got to give credit where credit's due. He put on one heck of a race. Larson did as well. So that's what I'm calling a Russ rant.
Now, when you first sent me this video, I watched the finish, and my initial reaction before I saw him give him the thumbs up was these guys are getting ready to fight in the pit. And that didn't happen. I was a little surprised because I've heard this about Kyle Busch. He has that persona, that reputation, but isn't it good for a sport to have someone like that?
Yeah, I think so. I think you need to have that bad guy and
that
someone you can point the
anti-hero
finger to. So I can completely understand why it's good to have him like that. I just feel like he kind of does it a little too much. Maybe he's doing it to get the attention. Maybe he's not really actually mad. Maybe he's like, all right, I'm going to do this. So to get people talking about me.
Speaking of Kyle Busch, now, looking at your picks, you had an awful lot of Kyle Busch on there.
4 picks.
Yeah, so didn't count this one, but if you're sticking to it, Kyle Busch is going to be a force to reckon with when it's all said and done.
Certainly. I mean, he's actually top of the driver standings right now. He's 62 points ahead of Kevin Harvick. And kind of at this point, it's going to be very difficult for anybody to get ahead of Kyle Busch. Harvick's going to have to win many, many races upcoming, and I'm not even sure that's going to work. I mean, one race will get you about 40 points if you finish first, and then if you finish first and the first and second stage, that's 60 points there. But wherever Kyle Busch finishes, it's not going to close that gap off too much. So you kind of need Busch to wreck.
I was going to say,
and
not finish.
Harvick win, yeah. So that, I don't know if that's going to happen because we're going to Daytona and anything happen there.
So, I mean, not to jump too far ahead, but I mean, is this thing already over? Is it Kyle Busch's already?
As far as the regular season, I would say so. I think Harvick's about the only one who can really give him a run for his money because everybody else is either 119 points back, which is Logano in third, and then Truex is 142 points and just kind of go off from there, and it's just nobody's really able to catch him. It's kind of like Truex 2.0 right now from last year.
Okay. Now, taking a look even further at the playoff standings. Talk to us about that.
So there's only been 6 different drivers that have won this season. And,
is that low for this time of the year?
That is actually very, very low.
Okay.
Kind of a record low from the Chase chase grid / playoff era that we've kind of gotten into recently. So usually we've seen as many as 10 winners out of the season, but this year has been just a Kyle Busch, Martin Truex, and Kevin Harvick show, and then you got a couple of stragglers there, but not many. So those guys are locked in. Who has won? They're locked into the playoffs. But
Right.
what we're really looking at here is the bottom 2 and the top 2 that are on the bubble. So Eric Jones, Alex Bowman are kind of sitting at 15th and 16th. About 41 points separate Eric Jones from Ricky Stenhouse Jr., who's in 17th. Now, cutoff line means 16th and on up is going to be in the playoffs.
Okay.
So right now, the real race is between Alex Bowman and Ricky Stenhouse Jr., 23 points separating them, and that can change a lot in the next 10 races. But also, if we have a new winner between now and Indianapolis, Alex Bowman can get knocked out, and then Eric Jones would as well. We have a second new winner this year.
Now, you mentioned that we're heading to Daytona next week. Of course, like you said, anything can happen there, and most times it does.
And that's a threat for a new winner right there, because that's anybody's game.
So, who is that new winner then?
Well, I don't know if you noticed my jacket today, but
Pencil.
I'm definitely
The
picking
pencil.
I've got Logano picked for this one, and it was already selected ahead of time, so nobody can be biased.
Yes, we have a list. We have proof.
I think this might be my only my second time picking Logano this season, and I actually picked him for the Daytona 500. So I feel like he's got a good shot at this track. He knows Daytona pretty well, but so does his teammate Brad Keselowski. I think he's the threat to win this race as well, if I have a second guess. But I'm all in for Logano.
All right. Well, that's your guy. So hopefully you'll be right about that when they head down to Florida. So, so that's going to do it for NASCAR unless you got anything else we're missing.
Well, I mean, the race is this Saturday. It's going to be 160 laps, 400
I thought you were going
miles.
to say 116 degrees.
It might as well be.
I might
were
think about
some-
degrees.
Because back in Chicago, and you think Chicago is going to be cold, but
Right.
it was hot. It was so hot there for them drivers that they actually had to be taken to the medical care center to get that heat taken out of, because it was so hot. And those cars, they're not cool. You think having those open windows are going to keep you cool? They're not.
They're not in there with the air conditioning and listening to Sirius XM radio.
Not at all. They're listening to a responder, and
Yeah.
they're just, and the fire suits, they're not keeping it cool at all. And some of them even put ice packs in their suits.
Yeah.
Doesn't do much at all for them.
And see, me, not even really a casual NASCAR fan. That's one thing I never even think about is the fact these guys, it gets really hot in these cars.
Yeah.
And
It
then
felt
you
like
add the
100.
asphalt, and it's already 110 degrees
Yeah.
out. And of course, if they were racing here in Rockingham, they'd be dealing with that 100% humidity on top of it. So, but again, that's going to do it for NASCAR this week. We're going to actually close out the show. We're only doing 3 segments this week because we're ready to take a vacation. But when we come back, we're going to finish up like we always do with our big impacts of the week. We're going to take a look at our NASCAR-related Ross poll for this week. And then, of course, finish up with Love It or Hate It. All that and more when we come right back.
McNair Auto Sales is the place to buy your pre-owned car, truck, or van. To be the best, it takes big selection, friendly staff, and great pricing. We guarantee a no-hassle buying experience, and financing is available right on site. So come see us today. We're located at 1026 East Broad Avenue in Rockingham. And remember, with over 40 years of experience, you know McNair is the name you can trust.
Willow Tree Antiques and Gifts is all about rustic home decor and gifts. You will always find a variety of unique antiques, vintage, and new items in our shop. Come and see our selection of housewarming, new baby, and wedding gifts. For the man in your life, we have many collectibles, Boker knives, and leather. And ladies love the jewelry, purses, candles, hats, and t-shirts. We also offer a 30-day layaway program. Come and experience shopping at Willow Tree Antiques and Gifts.
Hello, I'm Tammy Benson, and this is
Nancy Bowling.
And we're here to tell you about the wonderful service at hospice and what they have to bring. From the nursing services, to the medical director, to in-home aides, to a chaplain, to bereavement, to everything you can imagine. They were there to take care of it.
I cannot think of how the experience with hospice could have been any better professionally, spiritually.
Welcome back to the RO Sports Show, brought to you by First Health Orthopedics. Guys, let's close it out like we always do. Let's start with our big impacts of the week. Of course, that is brought to you by Richmond Community College, whose motto is Local College, Big Impact. Russell, let's start with you. Who's your big impact of the week?
Well, me being a Harry Potter fan, I had to go with this one here. Maybe you might have heard of Quidditch.
Yes, I've heard of it.
Well, there's also a thing called Muggle Quidditch, which is pretty much a ground version of the wizarding sport. So,
well, it has to be, because you can't ride a broomstick.
Not yet. I'm sure somebody's working on that in technology somewhere. But anyways, the U.S. Quidditch team won the fourth out of they have won their fourth Quidditch World Cup. They played that in Italy, and this is their fourth one out of only 3 of the held events. They've only had 4 World Cups, and they've won 4 out of 3. Australia beat them in the one that didn't win. So U.S. is pretty good at Muggle Quidditch. So
how many teams are there? How many countries have Quidditch teams?
There's a bunch of them, and college is also doing it too. There's Duke, UNC even has a team.
Really?
I wish Pembroke had one. I'd definitely be on it right now, but maybe that'll be something to work on.
That's crazy. Shout out to J.K. Rowling. She has changed the world 10 times over. How about you, Jeremy? Who's your big impact this week?
I got the Richmond Rattlers staying firework hard with their 5th consecutive win, beating Pinecrest 4-1.
Yeah, and I didn't realize it, but that's their 5th win in a row. They actually started the season 0-2 and then went 5 in a row. Now they're 5-2, so looking good. And hopefully a lot of these guys will be playing on the Raider team next spring. My big impact is also on the diamond on the ladies' side. Congratulations to senior center fielder Brianna Basic, junior shortstop Savannah Lampley, and junior pitcher Grayson Way, who completed the trifecta of postseason honors as the North Carolina Softball Coaches Association unveiled its 2018 4A All-Star All-State team. So congratulations to those young ladies. Of course, big things for the Lady Raider softball team. Hopefully, we're going to get a state championship here in the near future for all of them. So, but moving on, we're going to take a look at the RO Sports Show Facebook poll. And we put one out a few days ago. I think it was NASCAR, though.
Sunday, right after the race, I put one out there about Dale Earnhardt Jr. He had just caught his first race in the commentary booth with NBC. And, Fox has Jeff Gordon, and so NBC got Junior. So I put out there, it's like, which one's better?
Which one's better in the booth?
Junior or is it Gordon? And
it was close.
It was very close.
It might have been the closest one we've had so far. So it came out to be 52% for Jeff Gordon, 48% for Junior. So
I'm going to disagree with people who said Gordon because once again, I was talking about earlier, Junior having that memorable moment where he said a slide job a couple of times there. That was pretty big because I got a lot of passion. I haven't really heard Gordon say too many memorable things. And he's been there for a couple of years, so I guess can't really think of anything at the moment.
Well, just personally, I feel like Earnhardt has more personality than Jeff Gordon does. I could be wrong, but that's just my opinion on it.
And maybe it has something to do with also the team that they're working around, too. Because obviously NBC has their own commentary, Fox has their own. So it could be something to do with that. Maybe the chemistry is just a little bit different.
Absolutely. And again, every week we put out a poll, so if you want to get in on the conversation, of course, you can find that on the RO Sports Show's specific Facebook page, and it's a different one every week. Of course, like I said, we went with NASCAR this week, so that was a good one to put up, man. And by the way, a lot of votes on that one.
Yeah.
A lot of NASCAR fans, though.
Oh, yeah.
And then finally, let's finish up with Love It or Hate It. We got quite a few. We'll see how many we can fit in before we got to go here. But let's start with football. So the Big Ten has asked the NCAA to develop, and this is a lot of words here, a national college football injury reporting system that will be used for now that states can bet. Certain states can bet if they've allowed it in their state. So of course this is kind of like in NFL where you have an injury report. You know who's playing, who's not playing, maybe for your fantasy team, for instance. But now they're taking it to the college level. Love it or hate it?
I gotta love it.
All right.
I'm gonna say hate it because I feel like it kind of takes away from the anticipation of is this guy going to start today or is he going to start next week? I like hearing that, especially at the beginning of the season, like when we got a quarterback battle going on. And if one of them's injured, are they going to be ready or not? It kind of takes away that anticipation from the fans' perspective. I don't really care about the money part of it. So
yeah, see, I'm indifferent on this one. I think I'm going to say hate it because we've said it so many times, but college football and basketball, it's a business. I mean, let's not sugarcoat it anymore. I just wish the NCAA would admit that it's a business. It's a game, but even though the players aren't getting paid, even though of course we mentioned that they should. This just goes to show you if this goes through, and I think it will, betting now and college football are going to go hand in hand.
Oh, yeah.
And there's going to be a lot of money moving. Don't you think?
Yeah, especially in the national championship games.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Now, we got some NBA, love it or hate it. So the 76ers, they didn't get LeBron, but they did re-sign former Duke J.J. Redick for a 1-year, $12 million deal. Love it or hate it?
I love it because this is an opportunity for J.J. Redick to elevate his game, and he had done tremendously last year, averaging 17.2 points a game last year. So he's doing good.
So, Russell, I know you don't follow NBA as much as we do, but what do you think? Love it or hate it?
Well, I'm going to say love it because the fact, so local college player from Duke. I'm not a big fan of Duke, but the point is, Duke is from here, so good for him.
I'm going to say love it, too. I think that, even without picking up LeBron, I think Philly's going to be one of those teams to reckon with next year. As we mentioned earlier in the show, I think, they're going to fill that void that the Cavs have had for the last couple of seasons. Speaking of LeBron, because it's like the LeBron show today, the Lakers signed Lance Stevenson. And I brought this up because if you're an NBA fan, you may remember a few years ago when I think Lance was with the Pacers, maybe?
Yes.
And he's well known as a LeBron antagonizer. And you may remember he blew in LeBron's ear during a playoff game. So now they're teammates. Love it or hate it?
I love it because this is an opportunity for them to be teammates for the first time in their careers. And Stevenson will bring that defense and that tenacity to the team with scoring, rebounding, great defense.
What do you think, Russell?
Well, I thought you at first Lance Jenkins had gotten signed. I'm about to say, definitely love that because good job, Lance. But,
sorry, Lance.
I'm going to say love it.
I love it, too. I mean, these guys have never actually had like a beef,
Yeah.
It was all kind of fun and games. Lance was basically just trying to get in his head. Didn't really work because the Cavs ended up winning that series. But nonetheless, I think it'll give Lance a chance to elevate his career playing with LeBron in L.A. Sticking with NBA, the Orlando Magic re-signed Aaron Gordon, which was their top priority this offseason, to a 4-year, $89 million deal. Love it or hate it?
I love it. Take care of your franchise player.
All right.
Yeah, love it.
I love it too, although I wish, not wish, but I think that the Magic are going to need to do more than just having Aaron Gordon if they want to get back to the days of Penny Hardaway and Shaq and, back in the glory years. Also sticking with the NBA, Chris Bosh, you may remember he had to retire. He had a blood clot or something like that. And he was forced to retire. But there is a report out there that he could potentially come out of retirement and join LeBron in L.A. Love it or hate it?
I love it because this is an opportunity for for Chris Bosh to come back and play with LeBron one last time, and also contend for a championship again.
Yeah, love it.
I'm gonna say hate it, and the reason I say that is because whatever his situation was, it was dire enough that he had to retire. He had to quit. I'm just afraid. I hate to see him come back and then something happen while he's on the court. Heaven forbid he dies or something. Then you've got all kinds of problems on your hands if you're the NBA. Yeah. Of course, they would have to give him the go ahead. He can't just come back. He's on some kind of list.
Yeah, he got to be monitoring everything.
Yeah, exactly. So. And then one more. Actually, we got two more, but one more NBA thing here. Of course, talking about Vegas. The 2019 odds for next year's NBA teams are as follows: Golden State, Boston Celtics, the LA Lakers, Houston Rockets, and Philly 76ers. 1 through 5. Love it or hate it? Or basically, does that sound right to you?
That don't sound right to me at all. But I'm gonna say hate it because of the rankings of the teams.
No.
Yeah, I guess I'm gonna say hate it in a way because actually no, I'm gonna say love it because Boston's up there getting recognized. You wouldn't expect that to see that from most. You would see a heavy Western ranking there, but getting the East team.
And I mean that's to be expected. But I'm gonna say hate it just because I'm still thinking that Houston should be ahead of LA. That's just my opinion, though. Yeah. Other than that, I think it's okay.
We'll see next year.
Yeah. One more NBA here, because I think we got time. Giannis Antetokounmpo, who I mentioned earlier, is a guy I think will be the best player in the East now. Plays for the Bucks. Not a big market, but a big-time player. He was chosen as the cover for the latest NBA 2K19 game. Love it or hate it?
I hate it because that should be LeBron on that front cover.
Actually, I'm going to say hate it because I think the player of the year should have been on that cover.
So James Harden?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say love it because I think Giannis, he doesn't crave attention. I saw an interview with him on Colin Cowherd's show. He's a great player, though, and I think will give him some more recognition, and people will start realizing this guy is legit. You mentioned LeBron. The first cover they came out with for this was LeBron
Yeah.
in a Cavs uniform, and they wanted to hedge their bets in case he left, which he did. So they put Giannis on there because he
I
ain't
think
going anywhere.
AJ Styles got on the WWE cover.
Did he?
Yeah.
Did that just come out too?
I think a couple of days ago, yeah.
All right, shout out to the phenomenal one. I think we got time for a few more. Tim Tebow, of course, plays for the AA team for the New York Mets. He was named as an Eastern League All-Star, so love it or hate it.
I love it. Congratulations, Tim Tebow.
All right.
Yeah.
I love it too. I've actually been on here before and complained about him potentially taking the spot of someone who deserves to be there. Tebow's killing it though. Will he make it to the majors? Probably not, but the Mets are terrible this year, so bring him up. South Florida, the university has hired a college football playoff executive, Michael Kelly, to be their new athletic director, with the intentions of, in case the ACC or the SEC or another Power 5 conference decides to expand. So hiring Michael Kelly, love it or hate it.
I love it.
All right.
I'm gonna say love it, but I feel like SEC and ACC are kind of already too big. I mean, they could probably accept more teams in, but I feel like they're going to get too big after what they were. I think SEC has 14 teams. ACC I think has 14 as well.
I know. Yeah, they both have 14.
Really
but
big.
again, I mean, I think we're moving towards a thing where you're going to see Power 5s are going to have 20, 22 teams in there, and if you're not in there, you're left out in the cold.
And that could very well happen because other teams are out there, like UCF, for example, could be a part of one of those conferences eventually.
Who wants to get into the CFP
Yeah.
and doesn't have that chance because they're not in the Power 5. So we could potentially
and maybe
see more
one day
expansion.
we'll see a Power 4 conference where it's just 4 conferences out of the entire country.
Could be. That's been talked about as well. Vince McMahon is expected to spend $500 million on the XFL. He's already come out and said he expects to spend $500 million. Love it or hate it.
I love it. I remember when the XFL was up the first time, was doing well.
I still feel like he needs to spend a little more money now. I just feel like 500. I know 500 million is a lot for us, but
Yeah.
I feel like for him starting a brand new football
not a franchise, a whole league.
Yeah, I feel like he's going to need a lot more money than that because I can see at least 100 million being needed for each team. I don't know how many teams he's got playing for.
Yeah,
But
I'm gonna say hate it because I don't think he should be doing this to begin with. I think the XFL is not going to do well because it's trying to try to go up against the NFL. And
I'm
it's
going to say
to fail.
love it because I think they would beat them.
Beat the NFL?
Well, not beat them, but they will give them
The
for their
NFL
money.
prints its own money, man.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Vince is spending $500 million.
Well, he
I
probably
think-
prints his own money too, considering WWE's been around.
I would
so-
rather him put it into WWE though, instead of an entire new. Because you've also got that USFL league that's going to compete with it. Anyway, and then finally, somebody who probably would do well in the WWE is Terrell Owens. He, we mentioned before that he's like the first and only guy who basically turned down the Canton and said, "I'm not coming to do my Hall of Fame speech there." We all, I think, hated that, but he's announced that he is going to give his Hall of Fame speech at his alma mater, Tennessee Chattanooga. Love it or hate it.
I hate it because he need to do it at Canton.
I'm willing to flip side and say love it because maybe he's trying to give back to those players at Chattanooga or even just to his entire school. I mean, kind of helping out the future more there personally because Chattanooga is a very small school, so I'm sure getting it on a personal level probably want to affect those people there a lot more than being on a national stage where everybody's just kind of blankly listening to
I get that, but I hate it. T.O., you're selfish. Go to Canton. That's all I got to say about that. That's a Matt rant. Anyway, that's going to do it for this edition of the RO Sports Show. And again, we hope everybody watching had a great 4th of July. And we'll come back next week. No telling what we'll have to talk about. Plenty to go on. Of course, we're going to mention Alabama. Probably a lot, just like we did tonight. That's what happens when you got 2 Roll Tide fans up here.
Oh, yeah.
But, of course, here we go. Of course, there's so many ways to watch the show. Facebook, of course, the RO Sports Show's specific Facebook. You can also find us on the Richmond Observer's YouTube channel. And if you want to listen along, you can do that on the Classic Rock. And I know there's so many that I left out. But again, so many platforms through the Richmond Observer. You can watch and listen to Ross. So, of course, it's all free.
All free.
You're paying for it. So, for myself, Matt Harrelson, Jeremy McKenzie, Russell Parker, see everybody right back here next Thursday, 5:30. Have a great week.